If you don't believe that the resurrection happened, your faith is always going to be challenged. You're always going to have a little bit of resistance taking your next steps of faith because there's always going to be a little bit of doubt as to whether this event that's so central to Christianity even happened. You may believe in the scriptures. You may agree that the New Testament scriptures are correct, but there'll always be some hesitancy. There'll always be something that you're holding back on in your faith. You won't fully surrender. You won't really sell out. If there's any doubt in your mind, what happened that day when the tomb was found empty? So I really want to encourage you to wrestle this to the ground. And I'm going to read you some passages today that really help you understand the historicity, the historical nature, the evidence behind these findings of what happened that day. We have 9 eyewitness accounts, 9 eyewitness accounts of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Now we know that over 500 people saw him walking around during the 40 days that he walked around, and they even touched the holes and they watched him eat. They saw him physically, right? And they saw a physical body and they touched him. So we have 500 witnesses, but 9 of those actually became reporters. 9 of those wrote what they found down. Having 9 eyewitnesses reporting what they saw is like having 9 different radio stations and TV stations and streaming stations combined on YouTube channels and NBC, ABC, 9 different ones, all reporting that an event happened. Let's say there's a wreck on the highway that's near where you live, right? If you've got 9 different reporters saying, and with helicopters and all that kind of stuff, saying this wreck is happening on the highway, and it was a 15-car pileup, and they're all reporting, different angles, different facts, but none of them contradict one another, and they're all saying this happened. Some might add certain details, others might add lesser details, but they're all saying, hey, there's a wreck on this highway. Would you not believe? But a lot of us hold back saying, well, I got to check my brain at the door to believe Christianity because I got to believe a dead guy rose from the dead, when there's 9 different eyewitnesses reporting about the event. You wouldn't say that you've got to check your brain at the door about believing that wreck happened, would you? Right? I mean, it's like, well, the wreck happened, obviously, because there's 9 people. Some may be adding different details, others may be adding more details, but we can take all that together and understand fully, more robustly what happened that day. That's what we do with Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and we've got Philo, extra-biblical authors like Josephus and Tacitus. 10 of them are non-biblical authors, all saying that Jesus Christ existed, and some say that he was crucified, and one says he rose from the dead also, or at least that it was reported that he rose from the dead. We have 9 in the Bible alone. And then we have all these extra biblical authors saying something major happened in the life of Jesus Christ. And these 9 eyewitnesses say, look, I was there. I touched him. I touched the holes in his hands. I saw it. I can't unsee what I saw. You need to know this happened. It's unbelievable evidence. Further, this history doesn't read like most histories. This history doesn't, how history is written by the heroes? These people who are going to be the leaders of the Christian movement after Jesus rose from the dead, they make themselves out to be doubters and less credible by saying, hey, I didn't believe. They don't make themselves look good. This doesn't read like most histories do, where the heroes are made to look awesome. They actually make themselves look worse and even add details that would make the story less credible, like having women find the tomb over men because of the chauvinism of the first century Roman Empire. If you're going to add to the credibility, you don't have women discover the tomb. You don't also say that, hey, we weren't believing that he was going to rise from the dead. So I just want to read the accounts to you. And I want you to see for yourself that the only thing plausible that could have happened that day, based on the evidence, based on the history that's written for us, is that he rose from the dead. We're going to be in Luke chapter 23 and 24, and then I'll show you in Acts 2 what Peter concludes happened that day. But let's look at Luke 23. We're going to begin in verse 50. Now there was a man who was named Joseph, a member of the council, a good and upright man. This is a man who is a part of the religious Jewish leadership. They were a council called the Sanhedrin. They were the ones who were the authority over all of Judaism. And they all are the ones who really forced the hand of the Romans to crucify him. Now, it was the Romans who crucified him. But this Jewish leadership are the ones who actually forced their hand when you read the rest of the accounts. And here is a secret follower of Jesus on that very same council. He was against the arrest and the crucifixion of Jesus, and he was waiting for the kingdom of God. It says he came from the Judean town of Arimathea. Sometimes he's called Joseph of Arimathea. And he himself was waiting on the kingdom of God. He believed that Jesus was the kingdom of God, and he was sitting here. He had looked at all the Old Testament scriptures that prophesied. There's hundreds of them, by the way. Some with very deep specificity that Jesus fulfilled, hundreds of them. And Joseph had obviously read those, and he was waiting for the kingdom of God. He'd believed in John the Baptist's confession that the kingdom of God is near. And so that's Joseph of Arimathea, very wealthy man because he was a part of the Sanhedrin, and that's how he had this rock-cut tomb. Look at this. Going to Pilate, he asks for Jesus' body. So he must have had some clout to get in front of Pilate. Pilate is the governor that's been appointed by the Caesar. There's no one higher than Pilate, it's only Caesar that's above him. Pilate is the guy in charge. And so he gets in front of Pilate, and Pilate says, okay, you can take the body. Verse 53. Then he took it down, Joseph and his friends, and wrapped it in a linen cloth and placed it in a tomb cut in the rock, one in which no one had yet been laid. This was a brand new tomb, an expensive tomb. And so not only does Joseph of Arimathea know it, and he's on the Roman Jewish council, his friends know it, but the women, as you're going to see in just a second, follow him to mark the tomb. We also know that Pontius Pilate himself says, go and guard that tomb as best you know how. Now, we know from Roman histories, you have to read the Roman histories yourself, to learn that a guard consisted of 3 different numbers: a 16 Roman guard, an 8-person guard, or a 2-person guard. If Pontius Pilate, who's the governor of the whole region of Palestine, second only to Caesar Augustus in that time period, reigning over the land, says, go and guard that tomb as best you know how, what's the size of this Roman guard? It's a 16 Roman guard. And these Roman guards, the training that they had, whether it was 2, 8, or 16, okay, they're trained like Navy SEALs. That's the best comparison to the kind of training that they had. These are trained Navy SEAL type guys, buff as can be, and go and guard it as best you know how from the reigning authority of the place, right? The governor, that's a 16 Roman guard. So I say that because people believe that they could have gone to the wrong tomb.